Everybody, it's a pleasure for me being here again. I don't remember the sixth time I am here. And before presenting my contribution to the Luxury Conference, I would like to complement an information that I provided you or your colleague that attended the last meeting, the last Luxury Conference that took place in June in Shanghai, June last year in Shanghai. I had announced the creation of the European Cultural and Creative Industries Alliance, which had been promoted by Comité Colbert of France that Denis just mentioned, by Fondazione Alta Gamma and by Whirlpool British Luxury. The good news that from May and October last year we have two new members. One is Circulo Fortuny of Spain, and the second one is Masterclass Deutschland. And the good news is on top of Guy Sauter, as usual representing here Whirlpool, we have also the president of Masterclass, who is also the CEO of Meissen, the famous German-China, very, very old company. Now the European Cultural and Creative Industries Alliance is mainly dealing with institutional relationship with the European Commission and the European Parliament, and the digital area, the digital regulation and the responsibility of the poor player in the e-commerce is one of the important parts. The second one is the intellectual property protection. And the third one, which is not relating with the European institution, but also the international, some international institution, specific government, is market access. So the reduction of tariff and tariff barriers. And in the last few months, as my colleagues decided to appoint me as the first president of the executive committee of ECHA, I have been traveling and meeting ministers and president of the republic in Brazil, in ministers in China, in Beijing, and in India. So good news, and I hope that between ECHA organization and the China Luxury Industry Association, we can find a way of developing our cooperation. That said, I am going to present to you very quickly the synthesis of the results of two analyses, so two pieces of research that Alta Gamma has made a few months ago, in 2011. The first one is the 2011 edition of the Alta Gamma Consumer Insight, and the second one will be the Alta Gamma Digital Luxury Experience. The first one is an analysis we started 4 years ago, and what is specific in terms of methodology, that we analyze the consumer behavior interviewing the store and retail managers of the same brands in Europe, China, and the US. And as a matter of fact, I believe that this is quite interesting. Unfortunately, as it is a very detailed analysis, I am going to provide you just the general features. So first of all, what are last year the global trends? First of all, a growing consumption of luxury. As a matter of fact, 2011 has been also in quantitative terms a year that has been over-expectation. Over-expectation partly in the eastern part of the world, in China in particular, but I would say in particular in the western part of the world, in the US in particular. And there was people now are craving for luxury, in particular in the US, after a long period of holding back. And this is very good news. And also the forecast for the current year are not bad at all. Probably the increase in real term for the personal luxury good will be in the brackets of +4 to +6%, so much lower to compare to the +10-11% of the year 2011 globally, but anyway quite positive. Of course, the digital and social media, the digital and social media era have changed the consumer's way of shopping everywhere in the world, and luxury consumers are willing to pay a premium or a super premium price for superior quality and for the heritage behind. And product quality and timelessness are considered the most important values in the last year. Finally, Europe and the US market are benefiting a lot from Asian tourism. While traveling abroad, they can avoid a fixation of relatively higher pricing points that they have in their home countries. And another point, David Morrissey stressed the opportunity from ownership to experience of luxury. And as a matter of fact, worldwide, we have seen last year the presence of new luxury choices. Kids wear, pets wear, food and wine everywhere in the world, yacht and private jet, holidays, travels, and so on. Luxury consumption eating up, meaning that we have seen everywhere in the world an increase of the average tickets higher than the average increase in price that was quite strong in the year 2010 and 2011. The retail experience is more and more important, and this is also managed by the company with further investment in training and in the decoration of the stores, but in the same way using online strategies that can improve the final customer virtual experience. Another point that we have seen everywhere in the world, in particularly last year, is the value of the product. There was a discussion in the last 10 years. Is the product as important as the brand, or is the brand as important or more important than the product? What is clear, particularly in the last 2-3 years, that the product and the tangible and intangible assets of the product are now the main pillar in the consumer consideration. In Europe, we have some specific points. I would like to emphasize personal satisfaction. In Europe, much more than in the US, and much more than in Asia, in China in particular, consumers buy for themselves, to reward themselves. They buy much less for presents, they buy much less for some beer, they buy for themselves. And as for the travel shopping, Europe benefited from a number of flows, in particular from China, Russia, and Brazil. In China, travel shopping the other way. The information is that in the year 2010, people living in mainland China got 20 million visa to Hong Kong globally. It seems that the first estimate that last year, so the following year, for the year following 2010, the visas to Hong Kong increased by more than 25%. So the point, and this is the reason why the Chinese government is also considering the opportunity of reducing the custom duties, as you know. And the boom of the secondary cities, second tier and third tier. Then a new generation and gender shift. As a matter of fact, the first generation shift is just a continuation of what was already in place. The Chinese consumer is becoming younger and younger, and it was already the youngest consumer on average worldwide. But the gender shift is quite new. As you know, the Chinese market has been for 20 years and more a male-driven consumer, a male consumer-driven market, and now women consumption is growing quite fast. In the case of the US, we have probably one quite interesting element, the growth of the confidence of the final consumers, and the presence of a strong number of elite consumers that have been behaving last year, buying in multiples and paying in cash much more than they did in the year 2009-2010. And finally, I would say that in the US there is the presence of a younger generation of consumers, and the younger generation in the US is in a way quite similar to the Chinese generation, and truly different from the European situation. In Europe, we still have the strong majority of the purchase made by baby boomers, whereas in Generation X and Generation Y are now predominant or dominant in the US and in China. So, as I mentioned, we started this analysis 4 years ago. In the past 3 years, the global economy changed a lot. The year 2009 was the annus horribilis, with a decline of 10% of the worldwide luxury good consumption worldwide. In the year 2010, Europe and the US had a similar trend in the economy in general, but in particular in the luxury good consumption, and China progressed a lot. What we can see in last year, 2011, now probably the path of the three macro regions of the world are already, all of them are mature markets, and they have quite specific direction. There are a number of contrasting trends as well. Show-off, also Davis remembered, that is the main driver of consumption in China, but in the same time we see that there is a fast-growing segment of the Chinese clientele looking for niche and understated brands. In the same time, in China, the younger customer, the customer is young, but you find here a retail manager statement on the fact that the true luxury battle is still in the age segment 30 to 60. So there are a number of elements to consider again. Very quickly I go to the second research, and the digital luxury experience, and the goal of this analysis is understanding the online customer behavior and the online brand performance. The analysis was concentrated on 187 international luxury brands, 8 product categories, 450 websites, 7 countries, US, Italy, UK, France, Germany, China, and Japan, 150 million social media and blogs scanned, 50 performance indicator, a questionnaire to Alta Gamma member companies, and 1,500 consumer interviews in main Western markets and in China. The online luxury market is quite small, but is growing a compound growth ratio of about 20%. In spite of the limited volumes, we found out a quite interesting result that the online influences the offline purchases much more than we forecasted. You can see on the percentage of the total respondent to the question for luxury items bought in store in the last 12 months, did you do any research online? And 77% was yes, positive answer in Europe, 50% in the US, and 63% in China. But also vice versa. For luxury items bought in stores in the last 12 months, did you do any research, bought online in the last 12 months, did you do any research in store? 70% in Europe, 59% in the US, and 59% in China. Blogs and social media are increasingly factors influencing. You can see the number of the different influencers. Of course, instead of Facebook in China, you consider social networks as Xiaomi, but you can see that the percentage is quite impressive. Our forecast is that by the year 2015, China is surpassing the US in terms of online retail turnover for luxury. And you can see here the KPI, the key performance indicator, that impacts the customer decision journey for luxury goods. And going on, I present you very quickly the Alta Gamma index of the best performance, in this case in the website. And we have considered awareness, consideration, and loyalty. In apparel, we have Louis Vuitton, Ralph Lauren, and Benedetto Zegna. In the accessories, we have Hermes, Gucci, and Salvatore Ferragamo. In jewelry, 2 times Tiffany and Swarovski. In the watch business, Rolex, and Chopard. In living, bedroom, and bathroom, Cassina, BB Italia, and Poltrona Frau. In kitchen and table, Wedgwood, Alessi. In lighting, Artemide. In food, Domori, Agrimontana, Caffarel. In beverage, Frescobaldi, Ruinart, MSC. Hospitality, Ritz-Carlton, Savoy. In cars, Porsche, Bentley. In yachts, Riva, Benetti. Very quickly, social networks, the annual growth rate we expect is more than 100%. The communities of social networks are very important. Just for example, Ganance Doré has 120,000 unique visitors, with compared to Vogue France website 94,000. But also in terms of loyalty, you can see that the monthly visitor of Ganance Doré are 3.8, whereas the monthly visitor in Vogue France website are just 2.2. Creating strong contents on social media can be benefiting. The case of the business case of Burberry is very well known, but anyway, you can see the increase of the performance of Burberry on Facebook, and probably it can be interesting for you to see how the stock price, what was the stock price evolution in the last 2 years, 2010 and the first 6 months of 2011, and you can see that it was much higher than the competitors. And finally, the most quoted brands in the social media. In apparel, we have Burberry, the key winner, the best performance is for the social media presence, and Christian Dior for the hype. In the accessories, we had Gucci and Cristiano Louboutin. For living, bedroom and bathroom, Vitra and B&B Italia. And I go on to the conclusion. I jump to the conclusion. The two important points for luxury companies. One is luxury consumer is omnichannel and global. So the point is no longer a matter of integration. It's something more important from a strategic and cultural point of view. And what is mandatory for luxury brands to integrate not just every channel, but mainly every culture. Thank you.
Do you have any question, maybe, for Armando, before he goes back to his seat? Right.
No question.
No questions? Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
There is a question.
There is a question. Oh.
My name is Olivier Mauguin. I am from GRS Private Equity. I came a little bit later, so maybe you have covered that question already. But I would like to know if you have carried out some qualitative research as well to understand or to verify the motivations to purchase luxury goods online. To me, it appears a little bit counterintuitive. The shopping experience is by far not as good, as interesting as if you buy it offline in a brick and mortar store. So, can you elaborate on that? Do you have any ideas?
I have some ideas, personal ideas, but we have also, unfortunately, I don't have it, the slide with me, but we interviewed also this sample of 1,500 consumers that are balanced. So they 3% or 3.5% buy online, and the other who don't buy online. So the first point is that why they buy online, we have also a number of answers. When you start, this was the first edition of this research, when you start, you have some ideas, some forecasts. Among them, the most obvious answer we suppose that we supposed to get were the lack of time, the lack of proximity to the point of sale, and so on. But unfortunately, or fortunately, the results were completely different. It's true that the lack of time can impact, but can impact to those consumers that are loyal consumers. So they have already experienced the traditional purchases in the traditional channel for so many times that they are in a position of reorder a blue blazer. They know exactly the size or shoes or whatever. But in general, this was not. In a country like China, the lack of proximity to a store was a little bit more important. As a matter of fact, in terms of capillarity of presence, single branded stores, Europe by far is #1 geographic area in the world. Probably you have too many luxury stores in Europe, and without the purchases of the foreign tourists, these probably 50% of that would close. But China is far behind also the US. One answer that was a little bit astonishing to us. And in the next edition that we will develop in June, we will take more care about that, was the hassle of the salespeople, to avoid the hassles of the salespeople. And this was, in terms of percentage, was not as such important, but anyway, from a qualitative point of view, is a signal that we suggested to our member companies to consider, because they invest a lot of money to train the people, but probably for some of the final consumers not enough. They would like to have let's say, very attentive service, but not too invasive, not too aggressive. I hope to have answered to your question. Thank you.